We hear society say, we're all broken. In this episode, I am going to dive into fragmentation and how we can start to feel whole again and truly fulfilled. Welcome to the Abundance Hack Show, where we are inspiring you to ditch the outdated beliefs, release the blocks, and fully embrace your sovereignty so you can confidently expand to allow more love, joy, and aligned success in your life. I am Niajae, your conscious accountability partner, reminding you that abundance is your birthright. Hey M&Ms, thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. What are you manifesting in your life today? This is episode 150. 150. Can you believe it? 150 episodes. Oh my goodness. So I break down every season 50 episodes. So this is actually the last episode of season 3. So what have you been doing these last 3 seasons? Are you taking the golden nuggets and stuffing them in your toolbox for a rainy day? Or are you actually implementing the value into your life, integrating it into your life so you are living an abundant life? I want to know. I want to know because I want to make sure that in this coming season, I'm really giving you like tools that you can implement and integrate into your life. So let me know. Tell me your biggest takeaways. Tell me the golden nuggets that have really made a difference in your life. So just to give you a little sneak peek of what to expect in season 4, if I had to sum it up in one word, it would be heat. I am bringing the heat. I'm turning it up a notch because it's time. It's time. Why not? Right. So I really want to focus on mastery. Over the last 3 seasons, I've given you a lot of tools, a lot of frameworks, a lot of healing modalities. And we can take in all the information we want, but if we're not actually implementing it and embodying it, then we're not living abundant lives. So I want to turn it up a notch and make sure that you are embodying abundance and you're living a fulfilling life. So, what I also want to do is actually have some of my clients come on. I want to interview my clients. It's great to interview experts of different healing modalities and different coaches and stuff like that. But I want you to really hear from people who have implemented some of these frameworks into their life, because you can hear my stories all day, which my stories are great. But I want you to really start to hear from some of my clients and maybe even some listeners that have used these tools and they've really made improvements and transformations in their lives. So that is what you can expect in season 4, heat, and hearing from people that are truly embodying the lessons and the value and the wisdom that has been provided on this podcast. So we won't see another episode for 2 weeks, or here if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, but there won't be another episode for 2 weeks, just to give me some time to create a new intro and new graphics, et cetera, et cetera. I know that you'll miss me. But I'm going to leave you with some really amazing value that you can just sit with over the next couple of weeks. Okay. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about fragmentation, but I want to have a quick disclaimer. If you are someone who has suffered severe trauma, I always recommend you work with a trauma informed therapist. So, this podcast is not trauma informed therapy. So, I like to talk about mental and emotional health mostly for entrepreneurs, because that's my passion, is helping entrepreneurs overcome their blocks so they can live an abundant life. Now, if you're someone who has suffered severe trauma, I don't want you to think that this podcast is replacing working with someone trauma informed. So I just want to have that disclaimer, because I know that when we start talking about fragmentation, it is something that is used by therapists, like talking about the different healing modalities or the different frameworks that are built around helping people with trauma. So I just want to have that disclaimer. if you have suffered severe trauma, please consult with a therapist and do not use any of my tips in place of therapy. Okay. All right. So let's dive in. We are going to talk about a fragmentation. So what exactly is fragmentation? So let's talk about the technical definition. If you Google it, if you look at like Webster Dictionary, the technical definition is the process or state of breaking or being broken into small or separate parts. But in the sense of our being and in the mental and emotional health world, fragmentation is when the body divides traits and feelings and groups them into smaller sections, keeping some of them hidden until a safe space for expression is provided. So these fragments or parts are aspects of ourselves that didn't get to be expressed through wants, desires, needs because they didn't feel it was safe to. So this causes them to partially detach from our core, the core of our being, and become suppressed. So the way I would explain fragmentation is there were parts of us that at some point, whether it's from our parents, whether it's from society, whether it's from friends, siblings, partners, that we didn't feel made us lovable. So we hid them, or they weren't socially acceptable. So we hid them. So we're hiding and breaking off parts of ourselves because we feel subconsciously that these parts or these parts of us don't make us lovable, and people will not accept and love us if we show these parts. So why is this important to me? Why is this important to me? I feel like so many people are like, we're all broken. We're all broken. Or there's something missing. You know, we are conditioned to check all of the boxes, but then people check all the boxes and then they're like, but why do I not feel fulfilled? Something's missing. And what I came to the realization of is what's missing is you, the parts of you that you have broken off, suppressed, and denied to be socially accepted or to be loved. And so when you feel something's missing, it's a part of you that is actually missing, not something external. And when we break off these parts and we hide them or we deny them, for the comfort of others or for the love of others, it's actually self-betrayal. It's actually self-betrayal. And this blows my mind because we are always concerned about being betrayed by others. We're concerned about being betrayed by lovers, by friends, by family, by business partners, but we never stop to think about how we're betraying ourselves. I'm like, mic drop, mic drop. This episode over. That was like, just sit with that for the next 2 weeks. No, okay. So let me reel it back in. But I mean, seriously, we always are worried about how others are going to betray us, but we never pay attention to how we're betraying ourselves. So why would we betray ourselves? Like what person would purposely or consciously betray themselves? Like no one would, but it's subconscious. So I'll give you an example. I've always been extra vibrant. We'll say vibrant. And there was a time where I was getting ready for, I actually just had this conversation with my therapist, but I was getting ready for school, my first day of school. And I'm like curling my hair all kind of ways. And like, I have on like all this like detail and just, you know, my whole life I've been told I was extra, right? And I go to my mom and I'm like looking for her stamp of approval to be like, oh my God, you look great. Like, you look amazing. And she was like, I wouldn't wear it. And that literally broke my little heart, like broke my little heart. So what happened in that moment is I received the subconscious message that if I'm all extra, crazy curled hair and colors. And I think I had on like a bright yellow shirt, and I had probably like bracelets and necklaces and like all the things because, I like all the things. I received the message that I'm too much. And if I'm this extra, or I'm extra, I'm too much or extra. If I'm this extra, I'm not lovable. And so what I did was, the part of me that loves all of the bling and like all of the accessories and all the things, that part became fragmented. And I hid that part. I hid it, and I never denied it, but I hid it. And I toned myself down. I dimmed my light so I was more acceptable to people. That was a form of self betrayal. It was more important for others to accept me than for me to accept me. And we do this subconsciously. It's not a conscious thing. We don't do this in the forefront of our mind. But that part became hidden. And I always felt like, okay, I'm like, people are telling me like, oh, you're great, or oh, I love your outfit. But like, it never felt like the validation really didn't sink in, because I knew that, like, well, this is not even me in my fullest expression. This is me dimmed for you guys' comfort. So you say that you like my outfit or whatever the case may be. And I'm using this as an example just to paint the picture. But until I said, you know what, I'm going to be as extra as I want to be. And this has been a process. It's been a process. It's layers, layers like a rose petal. So I had a moment today where I was like, why do people always say layers like a bloomin' onion, like a never ending bloomin' onion? Because I'm like, I don't even like bloomin' onions. But I recently learned that I love roses. And this is a part of, ooh, you guys, I have to tell you this story. All right. So last episode of season 3, I'm going to allow myself to get a little sidetracked because this story is very relevant. So my therapist uses IFS, and IFS is actually a modality that helps you integrate the different parts of yourself. So IFS stands for internal family systems, right? I've actually fallen in love with this healing modality. And I think that it's so amazing, which has me talking about fragmentations, because when I started researching IFS, I'm like, this makes so much sense. And anyway, so what we do is we access our inner child. We access the time where that part of you broke off and became fragmented. And what I realized in doing this exercise is that I love roses. Now, as an adult, I used to always be like, oh, I hate flowers. Like, I don't like flowers. And I used to literally feel this way. But it's because as a child, I had to be self-soothing, self-sufficient, which is very in my masculine, and flowers are a very feminine thing. And I was so detached from my femininity because I saw that as weakness, because I needed to be strong. I was raised in New York, survival of the fittest. So I literally allowed the feminine part of me that loves flowers to be fragmented to the point to where it was completely disconnected from me and suppressed so deep that I didn't realize I actually love flowers. And so we did this exercise, and you have an option of like, okay, what does your inner child need? What does your inner child want to do? And I wanted to twirl around in a field of flowers. And so what I've started doing, and I may have shared this on a previous episode, but what I started doing is actually buying myself flowers each week. So I buy myself, technically my inner child, but I buy my inner child flowers every week. And that is me integrating the different parts of myself that I have suppressed. So that just helps paint the picture of how we can break off parts of us, and we almost lose parts of us. And that's why people get to like 50 or 60 years old and they're like, I don't even remember who I am or my passions or my desires, because you've allowed yourself to be so fragmented and never connected back to those parts of yourself. Now, some of the time we want to break off parts because they're dark, they're our shadow, they're painful, and we're doing this out of protection because we don't want to feel the pain, we don't want to face the darkness. But you can't run from your shadow, you can't run from your shadow, you can't run from the pain. And so part of this work, like especially if someone has suffered severe trauma, part of this work is being able to face that pain or face that shadow. And I think it's really important to find acceptance. And then after you find acceptance, then you can start loving yourself until you can love all the parts of you. And you can't go from fragmented to loving all the parts of you. Okay, you have to go to a place of neutrality and acceptance first, and then learn to love yourself. And when you can love all the parts of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of the fragmented parts, especially the ones that you hide because they make you feel like you're not lovable, if you can love those parts of you, that is true self-love. That is when other people start loving you unconditionally because you're not hiding parts of you. And that's when you can really feel the love from others because you are being you in your fullest expression. You are being all of you, you're whole. And then people are loving you as a whole. And so you feel that love. Like if someone's only loving a part of you because you're only showing them a part of you because only this part is in the driver's seat, but you have all these fragmented parts that you're hiding, that's why you don't feel the love from people. And so this is why this is so important to me, because I feel like we are betraying ourselves, but then getting mad when people betray us. But it's like you're betraying yourself by hiding parts of yourself. So my goal is to really help people get back into their body, connect back to their true self, and feel whole and feel fulfilled, because that is abundance. That is true abundance, feeling whole and really accepting, embracing all the parts of you and learning to love all the parts of you and really understanding yourself. So, like, when this comes up, and I used to say like I don't like flowers, but like I love flowers. But if at any point I'm like, "Ugh, flowers, like I know that that's a part of me that's protecting the tender part of me that loves flowers." So understanding that like this part is just trying to protect the other part because the other part is sensitive and tender. So really understanding all of your different parts. Okay. So some of the things that people like to hide because they feel like it makes them unlovable is a lot of times it's body shame, like shame around their body, shame around their sexuality. Sometimes it's shame around goals and desires or even skills. And it's like, why would someone have shame around skills? So this speaks to upper limits, like the fear of outshining. This is something that I've experienced a lot throughout my life, dimming my light for the comfort of others. There's layers. There's so many layers. Layers like a rose petal. Like the petals on a rose, that's what I'll say. There's so many layers. But other things is like insecurities or even passions. People fragment off their passions because, like, let's say you were raised in a family of doctors and you don't want to be a doctor, you want to be in a rock band, but your family says no, that's not a stable career, you have to go to school to be a doctor. Then you break off that part of you that really wants to be in a rock band and you hide it and suppress it. And then you become a doctor, but there's this fragmented part of you that's kind of dying inside. So, how do you expect to feel whole and feel fulfilled? Right?
You can't avoid disappointment. You can't avoid pain. Pain is a catalyst for alchemy. We just have to choose the perspective of growth. With the right tools, you can navigate life in a healthy manner, get out of survival mode, and start thriving. We're taught to suppress, dismiss, and deny how we're feeling. We're not taught to honor how we feel. We're not taught to honor our desires. We convince ourselves we don't need them because they aren't being provided. It's time to stop betraying yourself. It's time to connect back to your true self. It's time to connect to your intuition. If you are ready to step into your divine energy, passion, and purpose, join us in Heal with Sound, a self-mastery program by Niajae. This transformational 12-week program will provide tools that you will have forever to help you alchemize your pain, gain clarity, strengthen your intuition, and bring you back to a place of peace and alignment when life throws you off track. This program will use sound therapy, mindfulness, journaling, and a couple more powerful healing tools. It's not about who you want to be. It's about how you show up every day. Are you ready to show up your best? Go to Niajae.com for more information. Master your thoughts and habits, and you can master your life.
Screenshot wherever you're tuning in from and tag me on Instagram at Niajae. I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear how this is resonating with you. So I feel like everyone has fragmented parts. So it's like, okay, what do we do? How do we heal this? What do we do with all of these fragmented parts? Basically, you want to integrate and unify your body and your mind. And most therapists use a 3-step process. If we had to chunk it down into a simple framework, number 1 is identify the fragmented parts. So start to pay attention, and you do this through mindfulness. This is why journaling and sound healing and meditating is so important, really paying attention to your different fragments. And okay, let me give you an example. Have you ever experienced a time where you're like, part of me wants to do this, but part of me wants to do this? We've all experienced that. That is where you lean in. That's where you grab your journal and your pen and you really sit with, okay, what part of me wants to do this and why? What part of me wants to do this and why? Why is this part saying this? Like, is this part coming from a place of fear? And usually fear comes from a place of like wanting to protect. Is this place coming from a place of liberation? Like, really get to know your different parts and like where they're coming from, because there's always going to be a part that's trying to protect you. So number 2 is identify the time when they split off. So really going back to usually childhood, because I mean, hello, as adults, all of our therapy is healing childhood wounds. I feel like that's what it's all about. Even if we repeat patterns in relationships and business later, it all stems from something in our childhood, usually. So identifying when that fragment happens, because what you want to do for the 3rd step is find what that fragment needs. Find out what that fragment needs. So a lot of my fragments happened in my childhood. So going back to the 7-year-old Niajae, going back to the 11-year-old Niajae, and finding out what she needs. Does she need acknowledgement? Does she need love? Does she need to release some anger and frustration? Like sometimes our inner child is mad, does she need to throw something and curse? Like, what does your inner child need? What did you need when that fragmentation happened? And maybe she needs to be chosen. And what's really important about the chosen part is just keeping in mind that when this fragmentation happens, it's a form of self-betrayal. So I really encourage my clients to ask themselves, where am I not choosing myself? Where am I not choosing myself? So really the chosen piece is so important, and something to really dive in, like, where are you not choosing yourself? Where are you repeating a pattern of people pleasing and betraying yourself for the comfort of others? It runs so deep. It runs so deep, but I think that this is such a powerful thing to have awareness around, and really start to understand yourself, understand your different parts, understand what you're hiding, understand what you're toning down, because when we tone ourselves down for the comfort of others, and I'm just going to assume that, people listening to this podcast are probably people who also have been told they're too much, or they have this light that they're almost afraid to allow to shine bright, because they don't want other people to feel some type of way. It's a form of an upper limit. It's a form of not wanting to. If you read The Big Leap, highly recommend that book, The Big Leap. He talks about our different upper limits, and one of them is the fear of outshining. So you want to stay at the same level as your family, your friends, your peers, coworkers, associates, whatever. And so you don't want to outshine anyone, because you want to feel part of the crew. But finding that self acceptance and loving all of the parts of you, and not dimming your light, because dimming your light for the comfort of others is a form of self betrayal. So, committing to yourself, I'm not going to betray myself. I am going to be me, and the people that are meant for me are going to love me. If my light, Lisa Nichols says, and this is definitely one of my favorite quotes for her. If my light shines too bright, let them get shades. I'm messing up the quote, but basically tell them to put on shades. Don't dim your light for the comfort of others. If your light shines too bright for some people, let them put on some shades. Simple. So, really understanding the parts of you that has broken off because it you didn't feel lovable. Now, there's so many different layers of it. Like, let's take someone who is in the LGBTQ community. If their parents found out that they weren't heterosexual, that's probably one of the biggest ways where we can fragment parts of ourselves. And some people have courage to come out, and there's some people that just don't. And you would not believe how many people suppress those parts of themselves where they're attracted to the same sex, or they have certain desires, or dare I say fetishes or vices. Like, people have these things that they hide from people, and sometimes even hide from like their spouses, but then they go their whole life feeling like something's missing. It's because you're hiding a part of yourself. Now, I'm not saying go out here and tell everybody your fetishes, but really just embracing all the parts of yourself, because a lot of people feel so much shame around their desires. And we have our desires for a reason. And there are people that will fully accept us in our wholeness. And that's how it should be. Everyone in your life should accept you. Now, obviously, that's not the world we live in, but you deserve people to accept you in your fullness, in your wholeness, not hiding and suppressing and denying parts of yourself. You deserve people to accept and love you, all of you. Okay. So, let me know your questions about fragmentation. Let me know what you want to hear in season 4. Let me know if you love this last 3 seasons with me. All right. So if you want to know more about fragmentation, it runs deep. There's so many layers like petals on a rose. So if you want to identify your fragment parts and start to work to integrate and unify them so you're feeling whole. And I'll tell you from my own personal experience, I I am starting to feel whole again. I think that with the pandemic, everybody's nervous system is repairing. Going through a worldwide pandemic, going through COVID and quarantine and everything that people have experienced, there's a lot of people whose nervous systems are still repairing. And so when you go through something like that, it impacts the decisions that you've made. And so I feel like now that things are starting to smooth back out, we're coming back to a place of feeling like ourselves again almost, because I do believe that that process was a collective healing, but it sent our nervous systems into fight flight or freeze, and so our nervous systems are just starting to repair themselves. So after the pandemic and the shifts in my business, then top it with like a conscious uncoupling and losing my fur baby. So like I've had some really challenging situations that has created a separation in like the excited bubbly version of me, and then the part that's like really like stepping in to handle the heavy emotions. I've had to separate the tender sensitive part of me and like really step into the one with courage, the warrior, the goddess warrior in me. And so the process that I've gone through to bring everything back together, it's really, really, really powerful. And I'm starting to feel whole again. And I'm starting to feel the creativity and the extraness, because I am extra. I love the glitz and glam. And I mean, if I could walk around in a full sequence outfit every single day, I would, which I usually do. Not every day, not every day, but on the weekends. On the weekends, you will catch me in a full sequence outfit and owning it, because I think that I'm past the point where I'm not going to betray myself for the comfort of anyone else again. And that's just it. And I like, as I grow into a woman and eventually will become a mother, like I want to make sure that I'm in a place where I can fully accept others as well. And the more we can fully accept ourselves, the more we can fully accept others. So if you want to learn more about fragmentation and identifying your fragmented parts so you can be whole and fulfilled within yourself and have true self-love, one of the things you can do is obviously work with a therapist. If you've experienced some trauma, I highly recommend finding a trauma informed therapist. Really important. And I recommend a therapist that studies IFS, that practices the IFS framework. And then obviously sound healing. So you can work with me or even reach out to me if you want to find someone in your area. Because I mean, obviously you can come to Florida and do like a VIP day with me. But if you want to find someone in your area that you can work with on a regular basis, I have a network of sound healers. So Sound Therapy Network is my company of sound healers. So I can definitely connect you with someone that is in your area. And then also, I am launching Heal with Sound. It is a self mastery intensive that will help you connect to your true self and connect to your intuition, because we've become so disconnected from our intuition. So, getting back into your body and learning how your body communicates to you, how your intuition communicates to you. So, this is going to help you with some of those fragmented parts, because especially people with intuitive gifts definitely fragment off and hide those parts of themselves, because we're taught not to trust our intuition. We're taught to trust our logic. So when you have these intuitive gifts, sometimes you feel crazy and you don't want to be crazy and you don't want others to think you're crazy. So you hide these parts of yourself. So if you're someone who is highly intuitive and you've lost your way because it wasn't socially accepted, this program is for you. this program is for you. So definitely reach out to me. You can go to my website, niajae.com, niajae.com, to find out more about the Heal with Sound Mastery Intensive. And then also, just on your own, you can definitely do some journaling. Journaling is so powerful to help you practice mindfulness and really understand what's going on mentally and emotionally. And then you can also do some somatic work. So the last episode, we talked about somatic work. So moving your body to connect back to your body, getting back into your body. So somatic work and breath work will help you get back into your body and build awareness around what's going on, because our bodies are constantly communicating to us, constantly communicating to us. All right. So I just want to echo one last time that you deserve to have people in your life that love you and accept you and celebrate you for all of you, you in your entirety, all of the parts of you, even the parts that you feel are not lovable or socially accepted. You deserve unconditional love. You deserve to feel whole and fulfilled. And that is how you tap into abundance. All right, M&Ms, I hope you found value in this episode. I would absolutely love to hear your feedback. I will be back in 2 weeks. So try not to miss me too much. But I love to hear your feedback. I want to hear what you want to hear in season 4. So until next time, be decadent. Thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. I would love to hear from you. Leave your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our yummy episodes. Every time you leave a 5-star rating or review, I do my happy dance.